All right. Hello, my loves. How are you doing this evening? Give me one second. So, for tonight's call, there were a couple questions submitted by email. So, I have decided that I will record this. So, for the women that submitted the questions by email, however, we'll get those at the end of our call tonight. And for you, Veronica, and I'm not sure who Get It Done is, but feel free to unmute yourself or unvideo or put yourself on video because this is for you. This is for you. I have no agenda, so let's open it up. What are your challenges? What are your struggles? Where are you at in regards to love, men, dating? What is going on? Let's work through this. All right, Veronica, you want to go first? Because I can see you.
I first need to unmute myself. Hello. In first place, I just want to say thank you, Emyrald, for doing all this for us. You're such a great coach, and also thank you for inspiring me to become a coach myself. I'm a medical doctor, yoga instructor, dancer, and I have started my health coaching business as well. And you're a big, big inspiration for me. And yeah, so a big, big thank you. And actually, I've joined, but right now I don't have any questions because I'm so in all this stuff of starting the business, my work at the hospital, so that I don't have enough time for dating. So maybe a question, I have already checked with my inner guidance, the question, but I would like to hear your opinion. So what do you think? Is it a good idea to at least online date if you really do not have time?
So that's a very good question. And this is going to be a great one to start off with, actually. And so if you're incredibly busy with your career, right? I'll rephrase it. You're incredibly busy with your job or you're incredibly busy with your life. Should you be spending time also doing online dating? And the way I look at it is there's a variety of ways you could go at this. The first one being, what is your priority short term? What's your priority long term? So let's say, for example, because one of the women in the group coaching, she's in a similar situation. She's building her coaching business. She's incredibly busy. She does want a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily need to happen right now. And so some women, they wait too long, let's just say. They wait until they want the relationship yesterday to start dating. Then they're impatient. Then they're in the wrong energy for dating, right? Because they're in that hurried, graspy, clutchy, needy energy, which is not a great space to be. It's like when you're starving because you haven't eaten all day and you'll eat anything versus you've been eating well. So on one hand, it can be great to be, if you're thinking like, you know what, I would like to have a relationship, let's say in 6 months or even a year. Well, you could be casually dating. And what I mean by that is, well, maybe I'll go out on a date a month, maybe 2 dates a month, like nothing extreme. Or based on who you are, let's say you have a really hard time speaking up about what you want. Well, then I would say absolutely. Online dating is going to be a great way for you to start practicing speaking up about what you want. Or let's just say you're looking for some new connections, or maybe it's going to even be networking for your health coaching, for yoga, for things like that. So that could also be really nice as well. But one thing I want to say is when you're busy with your life and your career and dating in a relationship is not a priority, then I also wouldn't recommend that you have to date. Like if it's not a priority, don't. It's just like if a woman truly is like, Emerald, I don't think I want a relationship. Like I'm really happy by myself. I'm like, great. Now, the majority of women that say that though, it's a limiting belief. It's a lie. Like they're lying to themselves when they actually would want a relationship. It's just that they don't want a bad relationship. They don't want to spend the time going on bad dates. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. And so I could see it going either which way, as far as if you could get benefits from dating, like if it sounds fun to you and it's not stressful, right? Like you're maybe going on a date or two a month and just meeting great people and you're practicing some things that you want to work on. And you're being honest with them of like, look, you know, I am really busy with my career. And so I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just looking to casually date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then I think it could be really wonderful. But don't do that if it adds too much stress on your plate, in which case then I would say, why don't you wait until later on when you actually fully do have the time for dating?
Yeah, thank you. This is exactly how I feel it.
Yeah, perfect. Yay. All right. Beautiful question to begin with. Once again, to the ladies that just jumped on, hello, Connie, hello, Barb, hello, Gail. So just live Q&A, whatever you want to dig into. I do have a couple questions that were submitted over email, but I'll save those for the end. I want to give you all my attention who are here live. So feel free to unmute yourself or put yourself on video and let me know what's going on. Barb, you look like you're thinking. Let's go to Barb next. Tell me what's going on, love.
Great. You were talking about, casually you said, dating is basically kind of what I've been doing is I'm not seeing anything I'm really interested in, but I'll go and be friends. And that's where I'm at. It's not going anywhere. Number two, I've tried the online dating. Now, I tried online dating 20 years ago and I hated it, didn't like it, didn't go anywhere. But I have this girlfriend who does online dating and she dates the greatest guys. They're like chiropractors and dentists, but she's very spiritual. So if they're not, she drops them right away. Nope, nope, no exceptions, whatever. And I say, okay, I'm going to try this again. And I try these sites with her. And every time I get that general in the army who sent his kids to boarding school because his wife died. Like, if I hear that story one more time, I've heard it at least 30 times. Like, the scams that come across there is just crazy. How do, I don't know how other women do it. I've tried and I don't know if I'm just too skeptical and I'm not trusting or what it is, but I'm not open enough, I guess, for online dating.
Well, and online dating isn't necessarily for everyone. Like, it is a tool, but it doesn't have to be your tool. And one thing I have noticed with online dating, like anything in our lives, we can build momentum around something. And similar to part one of the training, when I said, look around the room and notice everything green. And then when you closed your eyes, I'm like, tell me what you saw that was red. You couldn't see it, right? Because you've been focusing on the green. And so it's the same thing with dating and online dating. Is like we get into these energetic loops or spirals and they can be really hard to break. And then when it happens again, you're like, see, told you so. And it turns into this challenging self-fulfilling prophecy. And so the interesting thing is you tried it 20 years ago and then you decided that you would try it again because your girlfriend is having such great luck with it. But it sounds to me like you still have the old expectations, right? The old belief systems around it. And so in that case, what I would suggest is that you are trying something different, in which case it might not be online dating. What are you doing naturally in your life to put yourself outside of your normal day-to-day where you could be meeting people naturally that aren't specifically in your friend group, right? That aren't the same bars or restaurants or art galleries or whatever your normal is?
To be honest, I'm self-employed, so I'm very, very busy and I don't have a chance during the day to meet men. It's not that kind of business. So at night, I'm kind of tired. I'm burnt out, I guess. And so I really, in the past year, haven't even tried, to be honest.
Got it. Okay. So then your homework, my dear, is you're just going to have to force yourself, right? It's like a date night for a couple that have been together for 20 years. You have to have the date night to keep things alive, right? To keep the romance there, to keep the connection there. And so what I'm going to suggest for you is two things. You say you're exhausted at night, so I want you focusing on the self-care aspect. So what are you really doing to nurture your body, to nurture what feels good for you? Women can get way too much in their masculine, women like us who are self-employed, who own their own businesses. So the self-love, self-care is incredibly important. And so I want you focusing on getting into that feminine energy, and the feminine energy much more in the body rather in the mind, the masculine get shit done energy. So I want you focusing on the self-care aspect, and then I want you putting it in your calendar where you're forcing yourself to go somewhere new at least once a week. Even if it's, you know what, I'm going to make sure 2 days this week, I'm going to go out for lunch rather than eat at home. I'm going to go to a cafe. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to read. I'm just going to be present. And you would be surprised at how many more people you would meet. And I'll give my clients a task or an exercise where it's, you can't be on your phone. You have to smile at least 3 strangers, hold eye contact. Like that's the oldest flirting trick in the book. But when someone looks at you and smiles and maintains eye contact, we're naturally like, why are they looking at me? What's going on? And then if it's a man or a woman, they're like, are they interested in me? It kind of like speaks that curiosity. And so right now you're in this place of like, well, I'm not meeting anyone, but you're not going out to meet anyone. And so that's going to be the second piece of your homework, where you're just going to have to pick a night. And maybe it's Saturday night if you don't normally work on Sundays, or maybe it's Friday night if you don't normally work on Saturdays. And then, like I said, the self-care aspect. So at least you are balancing the masculine and feminine energy and giving back to yourself. And of course, a reminder when it comes to dating and love, we attract in people that treat us the same way we treat ourselves, which is why the victim ends up with the abuser, right? Because the victim's not treating his or herself well anyways. So the better that you treat yourself, the better types of quality and caliber of men that you'll meet.
I know this. I just have to do it.
Well, maybe you can get
Okay.
get an accountability girlfriend, like ask one of your girlfriends to hold you accountable. There's negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. The positive reinforcement might be like, if I make myself do this, then I'm going to take myself to the spa. The negative reinforcement can be, if I don't do this, then my girlfriend is going to donate this check to the opposite political party that I don't support, right? Like you can do the positive or the negative reinforcement.
Right.
And these are mind control tricks that actually do work. So that would also be my suggestion. Get that accountability partner to help you out there.
I will do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
You are welcome, my dear.
Can I
How do I see your beautiful face? What's going on?
I wanted to ask about the in dating, when you meet somebody, when there's this like really intense magnetic attraction, and you're just like right away, you just are ready to jump right in, and it's like that's what I like desire. But then I've heard that that can be like the old you know, like unhealed parts of ourselves that are connecting together with that person. And then I say, well, I don't really want a difficult relationship. Like I've had that. My last relationship was super intense and passionate, but it was extremely difficult to be in that. So I guess what is your feeling about those intense, passionate, immediate connections?
Yes.
Are they healthy or not?
Great question. So I can tell you, and once again, I am just one woman's experience, and then of course all of my clients' experiences, but I would say 100% of the time of what I have seen with those instant chemistry, passionate, attracted sparks, they're trauma bonds, they're wounded bonds. It's the victim and the abuser coming together. It's the anxious with the avoidant personality. It's the girl with daddy wounds, the boy with mama wounds, right? And they're coming together at that level. Now, the positive thing that I can share about this is if you're on the path of personal development and you realize what's going on, you can look at it through the lens of, okay, what was unhealthy in this relationship after that initial spark? And so I would be reviewing my past relationships if I were you. I would be looking at, okay, that initial bonding, like what was all the common patterns there? What was the wounded girl in me? So let's say, for example, he confessed his love for you really quickly, and you then were like, oh my God, I love him too, right? But if you go deeper into that of like, why was I so desperate for that man right away to express his dying love to me? Like, what in my little girl is not good enough, not being loved. And this is actually, I'm telling you a personal story from my past. And I realized like, whoa, anxious attachment style of like so desperate for the love that I believed it, rather than, wait a second, this man has known me for 3 days. Like, how could he possibly love me? And so you look at it and you look at your own role. Like, what was this mirroring back to me? What was this showing me? And then with the conscious mind, you can actually start to unravel some of these unconscious things that are going on by just being a little bit more present as to what is happening. And so once again, that's only in my experience. It's not to say that there aren't the occasional like love at first sight, sparks fly, really healthy attraction. But once again, 100% of what I have seen, at least in the last 6 years with clients, is that it's an unhealthy bonding. But once again, if you're on the path of personal development, you can view that as a good thing of like, oh, this is shining the light on something in me that I would like to work on, but I'm also going to be eyes wide open when this happens again, because I don't want to get into these continuous cycles of unhealthy relationships.
Yeah, thanks for that. I did do a recent relationship inventory like last week. I charted, like drew it all out on a piece of paper. And yeah, the part that I was missing was like, I'm struggling to find the part in me that's needing something or trying to recreate something. Like I can see these patterns in myself and in the other person and how we come together and create this thing, but there's still something missing for me. I'm struggling to identify
What it actually
what
is.
I'm actually trying to get resolved, I guess, maybe. Yeah.
Well, if you think back to childhood, did you have a healthy relationship with both of your parents?
No, not with my mother. Yeah.
Okay. And how did she, who did you have to be accepted or loved by her?
Yeah.
Like, did you have to be the good girl? Did you have to
Yeah,
get straight A's?
compliant, contained. I was very hyper and always asking questions and very curious, and that all got stifled at some point.
Okay. And in any of these recent relationships, have there been any part of you that's trying to get the approval? Any part of you that's stifling yourself, stifling your excitement, your creativity, your natural little girl in you that just wants to play and have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that for you, my dear, would be your work, which is I would invite you to have more play in your life, to have more fun, to let that little girl out, and then to challenge yourself to be that version of you when you're going out into the world, when you're meeting men, when you're dating. So ultimately it's you healing your past and saying, I don't need to be that little girl anymore that my mother needed me to be in order to be loved. In fact, I get to be this. Right. And then you'll start attracting in a completely different caliber of man that are like, wow, I love that this woman is so fun and playful and flirty. And I have so much of a good time with this person.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
It's fun homework.
Yes, indeed.
There is a concept I teach my clients in Magnetize called the love list, which is you make a list of all of these things that you love to do that put you in high vibration, right? Like being a kid. And then the homework for that module is you have to do something on that love list every single day for the next 30 days. And so I would give you that same homework, just like I told Barb, she's got to do the whole self-care aspect. She's got to force herself to get out of the house because how are you going to meet people if you're not doing online dating and you work from home? I don't understand unless it's going to be the mailman. Which the funny thing is, one of my past clients, it actually was the mailman that she ended up dating. Like, all right, you are the only exception to that rule. Otherwise, you got to get out of your house. So for you, Connie, you're going to make the love list of things that you love to do that make you feel good. And I want you to do them, but I want you to do them over express, like be that excited, giddy little girl again that just gets to play and have fun and enjoy life.
Yeah. I'm going to do it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Who else? Okay, Gail says you could ask your friend to refer her rejects to you. Yeah, I'd be like, well, I'll date them. That's fun. All right. Gail or Desiree, either one of you, my loves? All right, I'll go to one of the email questions then, while you two are thinking on it. So when the dating app does not allow you to write too much, how do you convey your personality and goals, and how do you screen people? And so that's a really good question. Because I mean, I don't feel like Tinder allows you to write a bunch either. So the first thing I would say to that would be, well, then you could use a dating app that is much bigger, like eHarmony, or I think even Match.com. Like they're known for the bigger, longer, in-depth, like personality profiles, research, et cetera, et cetera. And so if that really is important, then I would suggest that you use a completely different dating app that allows you to go into greater detail so that you can understand more about the other person first. The second thing that I would say is intuition is the real deal and important. And so the more you connect into yourself and your intuition, you will have an intuitive hit. And there's a yes/no exercise that I teach in my Connect course, where you close your eyes and you think of something that's a yes, something that lights you up. Maybe it's a walk in the park, a beautiful yoga class, someone handing you a bouquet of flowers, your favorite meal, and you just notice, how does this feel in my body? What does a yes feel like? And then you think of an example that's a no, like something really horrible and wretched, like war or rape or abuse, like go overboard here. And then how does that feel in your body? And then you start playing around with the yes, no throughout the day of like, should I wear this shirt or that shirt, this restaurant or that restaurant? And you just become more in touch with the natural rhythms of your body. Like your intuition is always speaking to you through your feelings, through your body. But if you're not used to connecting with your body, like let's say you're too much in your head, too much in your masculine, too much in your think mode, then you're going to miss it. But one thing that I have noticed, and we've talked about this in one of the recent calls in Magnetize, is one of the women is going out on a lot of dates and she's been practicing using her intuition rather than reading all the profiles, rather than going through all the pictures. I mean, she does that as well, but she allows her body to be that final knowing. And then the cool thing is what you can do is, so let's say your body said yes, or you thought it said yes, and you go out on a date. Well, then how was it? Or your body said no, and you go out on a date. Well, how was it? And so you're constantly checking in with yourself, forming a relationship with yourself, and really understanding. Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Blink, which the entire premise of the book is that instant, like just that knowing. So he doesn't necessarily call it intuition, but he calls it like that instant knowing. And for us as women, we are naturally very intuitive creatures when we are in touch with our bodies, our feelings, our emotions, our feminine energy. And so that would be the second thing that I would suggest there, is you spend some time really getting in tune with your body, because that will help when there isn't too much to go off of. And then the second thing being, once you start talking to them on the app, right? It's usually pretty apparent right away the caliber of human being they are, what type of questions they're asking you is really indicative, or the questions you ask them, how do they respond? And then are they responding with a question back? Are they trying to get to know you? So I would be in those cases asking questions to really get a glimpse into that person's life. Like, tell me about a typical Friday night for you. Is he sitting at home with the boys watching TV, football games? Is he going out partying until 2 a.m.? Is he sitting at home reading, listening to classical music? Is he going to an art show, an opera? Is he traveling, taking trips and hiking in the mountains on the weekends? And so you can really gauge who someone is with not much more than, I would say, a 10-minute text conversation back and forth where, once again, ask them what they're doing on a typical Friday or a typical Saturday, a typical Tuesday. And so I would be asking questions like that. I might, depending what I was interested in, I'm a voracious reader. I'm always reading 3 books at once. So I would probably be asking him, right? Like, what's the most impactful book you've read? And let's say he's like, oh, I'm not a reader, or I love Audible. I'm listening usually to 3 books at once. And we're like, great, we're a fit on that level. So I would be really thinking about, what are my non-negotiables? What am I really interested in? And could I flip it around and be asking questions like that to the guy to see how he answers? And once again, like, very quickly, you'll be able to discern if it's a fit or not for who I am and what I want. So that was a really good question. All right, who else? We got 15 more minutes. Otherwise I can go back into an email question if any. And you're welcome to ask second questions too, my loves. Gail and Desiree are being shy. What are your non-negotiables? Okay, great question, Desiree. So when it comes to the list, right? Like, I'm sure we've all made a list of what it is that we desire in a partner. Now, the list is not really nearly as important as your feelings when you're with this person, and then also the vision that you have for your life. And does this person have a similar vision? But typically, most women will start off with making their Prince Charming list, right? And so I teach all of these aspects within Magnetize because they're all important. So the list itself, I think, is important for dating because it also helps you get clear on what you want and put them in the right categories. So, oh, you're talking about my non-negotiables? Well, let me finish this little story because I think it's great, and then I'll tell you mine for sure. So your non-negotiables, your heart's desire, and the icing on the cake. So the non-negotiables are, someone wouldn't make it to a second date. Like, you want kids, he's had a vasectomy and is not willing to adopt and says absolutely not. You are incredibly health conscious and cannot stand smoking. Oh, and he's a smoker. Well, guess what? That's not going to work. So your non-negotiables shouldn't be a huge list. Okay. So for me, as I've refined it throughout the years, health conscious and active. Like, I am health conscious, I am active, like my weekends are in the mountains, I'm in the yoga studio, I am working out in the gym. Now, he doesn't have to be at the same level as me, but if his perfect weekend is sitting at home watching sports and my perfect weekend is playing in the mountains, that's not going to be a fit. Now, we don't have to be aligned in everything. For example, my ex, one of my exes, right? He was a hunter and a fisherman. I don't hunt. I certainly don't fish. So that was like beautiful when he would go with the guys. Great. I'm going to the hot springs with the girls that weekend. And so that's not to say that everything needs to be the exact same. But if someone's not into a healthy lifestyle and wants to eat Cheetos and Doritos, like, that's just not going to work for me. Second one, spiritual. Now, what I've also learned and refined throughout the years, and I have a past client story with this as well, spiritual doesn't have to mean the same as me. It doesn't have to mean he's read and studied A Course in Miracles. It doesn't have to mean that he believes in reincarnation as I do. But if he was an atheist or agnostic, like, that wouldn't work. If he was like a strict, devout Catholic or Jew, like, that also probably wouldn't work as well. And the only reason, not the only, but your belief systems are your belief systems for a reason. And I have seen some relationships where, like, strong Democrat, strong Republican, and they were totally happy and it worked out, or Catholic, Jewish, but totally happy and it worked out. So that's not to say it can't work out if someone has a different religious or political viewpoint, but I am so, like, me as a person, deeply spiritual, and that is such a huge part of my life and practice that my partner needs to have a spiritual practice as well. Does it need to be the exact same? Absolutely not. And I had a past client thinking like, oh no, yeah, he needs to have read A Course in Miracles. He needs to meditate. But what she realized was, under the surface is, it's not that he meditates, it's the benefits of meditation. Well, this man's a runner and he runs every morning. Guess what? Running is his meditation, right? It puts him in the zone, it calms his mind. And so you don't have to be sitting still on the couch with your eyes closed. And then like spiritual, what she really wanted was a man who helped her to be in the moment and to be present. Like that was her spiritual practice. So again, he hadn't read A Course in Miracles, but he brings her to the present moment. And so actually, that's why the list isn't necessarily the list. It's what's the underlying aspect to that. So then the third thing is traveler, worldly, explorer. If you've all been following me for a while, you know I've lived in so many countries. Like I'm currently in Tbilisi, Georgia. Before that was Italy. Before that was Mexico. Before that was Ecuador. Before that was Turkey. Before that was, the US sprinkled around. And so if he is not interested in leaving his country, that's just not going to work for me. And then the last one is fun, like fun, loving, happy with life. And once again, I think you all know I'm an incredibly happy individual, and like attracts like, but I want to be with someone who is also optimistic, also happy, also fun, like really enjoying life. And financially stable. That's an absolute non-negotiable. I do not want to be the breadwinner. I do not want to be financially responsible for anybody else. We're partners. And I know I shared this in one of the days of the trainings. Pretty much every man I have ever dated has told me he is not interested in a woman that just wants to be a mother. Like he wants her to have a job, wants her to have a career, wants her to be her equal. And I think nowadays more than ever, as the paradigm is shifting, men do want their equal. They want a partner. They don't want a housewife. The challenge for us as women is to not get so far skewed into the masculine energy because we're doing all the testosterone producing activities that work provides, right? Like we have to be in that energy. So we need to really balance that by taking time to be in our bodies with our emotions. One of the best ways to actually increase estrogen for women, just talking about our feelings, even talking about our problems, talking about our day without the other person trying to fix it or offer you a solution. And so one of the, when we were, I think it was flirts, my flirt course that's on masculine and feminine energy, all the women were saying how hard it was actually for them to like, just talk about their day to a girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, that's why you're in your masculine energy. So you have to shift that. So your homework is every night this week, you're going to call up a girlfriend and say, hey, I just want to talk about my day to you. You don't need to try to fix anything. I just want to talk. And that's a very, it produces a lot of estrogen for women and helps us to rebalance when we've been in testosterone work mode all day. So those are my non-negotiables. The heart's desire are just, everything you have in common with friends, right? Like, how do you want to enjoy life with this person? And that you can aim for 70, 80% of that list. And then the icing on the cake is like, well, wouldn't it be nice if he had millions of dollars? Like, sure, that would be great. Awesome. Wouldn't it be nice if he, I don't know, had a home in Italy? Yeah, that would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice if he looked like Brad Pitt? I wouldn't be upset. Wouldn't it be nice if he was best friends with Chris Hemsworth? Yes, that would be nice, right? And I've had clients put things on that list. I kid you not, like self-made millionaire, flies an airplane, salsa dancer, and got all of those things. So then wouldn't it be nice? The icing on the cake is also just kind of fun to be like, you know what, universe? Can't hurt to ask, might happen. And it just helps releases some attachment to it as well. And so the list per se, I find to be helpful with dating because at least conscious mind, you know what you're looking for and you know your non-negotiables, which is if I had a client do this once with a guy she was dating and she's like, Emyrald, he doesn't even meet 3 out of my 5 non-negotiables. And I'm like, so why are we dating him again? So it can help in those instances. So just keep your conscious mind focused, eye on the prize, what it is you're looking for. But like I said, what's so much more important than that list, because I also had a past client, her first week of working together, she got everything on the list, but he was a complete narcissistic a-hole. So she didn't feel good around him. He was horrible to the server. He drove way too fast and didn't respect her wishes when she's like, please slow down, I'm terrified. And so that was a really beautiful lesson for her to realize, oh, the list doesn't mean anything if I don't feel respected, if I don't feel chosen, if I don't feel loved, if I don't feel safe with this individual. So the list is great, but much more important how you feel with him. And then also like your shared vision for a life together, because you might feel amazing with this person, but if your vision for a life is kids and family and his vision is bachelor, well, it doesn't matter how good you feel around him, right? So list, feelings, shared vision is going to be the most important. And so that's one thing that you could do. I called it the relationship true north in this round of Magnetize. And I'm like, I want you ladies to write that down. And then I want you to have it by your bedside table. It's almost like this mantra. And I don't know if what I'm going to tell you next is true, but I love to say it because I heard it from somewhere else. So it might be true. But they say like millionaires recite their goals once a day, whereas multimillionaires or billionaires recite their goals 2 or 3 times a day. It's like, it's always in their conscious mind. It's always in their subconscious mind because they're consciously focusing on it multiple times a day. Like, this is where I'm going. And so what I had them do, I'm like, write your relationship true north down. Like, what is that vision truly that you have for your life and how your partnership fits into that? And then put it by your bed and read it first thing in the morning when you wake up, last thing at night before you go to bed. So that way your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are focusing on where you're going.
And Emyrald, would you recommend to limit the list of non-negotiables to a certain number of items?
Yeah,
Or...
you don't want it to be crazy. Honestly, I think like 5 to 7, because I mean, if you find yourself having a huge list of non-negotiables, then what that says to me is you're looking for perfection, which doesn't exist. It probably means you're also highly critical of yourself, right? If you're looking for someone, like you have to be just right, like all of these things, whereas the reality is a relationship's going to be a give and take and flow and grow through the rest of your life. And so, yeah, non-negotiables doesn't really have to be that big. And there might be certain things where you're like, I don't know if I want kids yet. I might not. Well, then a non-negotiable, because I've had clients ask me this question. I'm like, well, then you definitely, you want a man who's open to the possibility, but not decided either way, because ultimately that's where you're at. Like, I'm open to the possibility, but undecided either way. And that's kind of how I feel. For the longest time, I thought I didn't want kids, but now that both of my brothers have kids, I'm like, shit, I guess I'm open to the possibility of children, but it's not like if I don't have kids, my life is over. Like, I'm open to the possibility of it. But if I met a guy that was like a hard no, then that's fine. If I met a guy that was a hard yes, then I would be honest and say I'm open to the possibility with the right person, but I'm also not like looking for marriage and babies like right away. Like, it would have to be the right person for me to consider that.
And let's say, for instance, you would have like 10 non-negotiables and he would meet 8 out of them. So would you recommend to compromise or just to stick to your non-negotiables?
So I never recommend
non-negotiables.
Yeah. I never recommend compromising, because you deserve to have everything you desire, but the only person that's going to give that to you is you. So do you really believe that there is a human being out there that has it all? If you compromise, then that means you actually don't believe that that person exists. And so that would be something for you to really look at and identify, like, why don't I believe that I can have it all? Is it I don't truly believe in myself, or is it I don't believe in the universe? And that's where your work needs to be done. Either the self-love, self-worth, make myself believable that I can have this, or I need to work on my faith and trust in the universe that this type of man exists. I mean, if you want to share your your non-negotiables are your non-negotiables. Anytime someone tells me like, I think I have too many, that's when I'm like, well, then read them to me. What are your non-negotiables? Let's hear it. And I'll be completely honest with you if I think you might be asking for too much or you're being crazy. I've only had one client where I kid you not, had like 30 non-negotiables. And I'm like, girl, you are being way too crazy here. Like, you are absolutely being too picky. Like, and it wasn't that it was picky to the point where you could tell it was her own like critical issues. Like it's almost like I could hear her mother or her father in her head, like telling her like all of the reasons why she wasn't good enough. And so when the list gets too long, usually that's what it is. It's like your own lack of self-love and self-acceptance, that you're just like, I need to find the absolute perfect person, rather than this is truly what I need in a relationship to be happy. You know, like for me, like those 5 non-negotiables of me really knowing myself, but they're vague enough, right? It's not like he needs to wake up at 7:05 every single morning and then pray for 20 minutes, followed by a 17-minute meditation, and then he'll make me granola with raspberries. And it's like no, he has a spiritual practice. He's growth oriented. He's fun loving, financially stable, loves to travel. Like that's pretty vague. A lot of people could fit into that, right? And so that's why the other lists come into play. But once again, beyond those lists, how do you feel when you're with this person? How do you communicate when you're with this person? How do they respond when they're angry or triggered, right? Like all of these things really matter, and it takes time to find that out. But one thing I have learned and teach is that the more you do this type of work on yourself, those types of people you'll attract in, because like attracts like. You get who you are, not what you want. The external mirrors the internal back to you. And so whenever you're seeing these patterns come up in life and in dating, it's an opportunity for you to put the mirror on yourself of like, well, I'm the only consistent here. I'm the consistency in this pattern. We can't say, oh, it's all the men's fault. It's why do I keep attracting these type of people in? Like what in me is unhealed? What in me believes that this is what I can have? Okay, let me go into one more email question. Okay, the guy asked me for a drink and I really want to hang out and get to know each other. Last time when he asked me to hang out, I questioned my response and I kept reaching out. This time I answered with enthusiasm and let it go. I haven't reached out and neither has he. And I haven't really expected him to. My question, should I address this or wait and see? So this is dynamics, of course, of masculine and feminine energy, right? Do you want to be in the masculine and chase? Do you want to be in the feminine and be pursued? Are you interested in this guy as a potential partner or just as friends? That's a different response as well. And so grabbing a drink with someone as friends, then it doesn't matter if you're in the masculine or feminine energy. If you're following up like, hey, I remember you said you wanted to grab a drink. How about this weekend? Right? Now, if you're interested in it potentially going somewhere like a relationship and you want to be in the feminine energy, because 100% of my clients are women and 100% of them naturally actually desire to be in the feminine energy in relationship, and pretty much 100% of them are used to being in the masculine energy and going after what they want. And so like how you start a relationship is important. And so if you truly desire to be in the feminine energy with a masculine partner, then you've got to have him, or you have to step back into the feminine and allow him to lead. Because a masculine man who knows what he wants is going to go after it. And so what I would suggest is back off about it. Now, if this is a man that you see, of course, in your like day to day, like you live near each other, you're friends, same friend group, or you work together, then absolutely you can bring it up in a feminine way, in a playful way around like, you know, what's so weird? I haven't seen, like, I must have missed it. Like I completely missed the text from you where you were inviting me out Friday night for a drink and the time and the place. I'm so sorry I missed it. Would you send that again? Right? So like you could be playful around it and be in the feminine and invite him to step into the masculine, because they don't want to be rejected, just like we don't want to be rejected. And so maybe he was like, yeah, we should go for a drink. And then he started doubting himself, or maybe she was just saying yes to be nice. Well, then if you kind of bring it up in a playful way again, then he knows like, oh, she's receptive. She's not going to say no. She's not going to reject me. And so we do have to remember that dating is a two-way street. Men are scared of rejection just like women are. And so the easier we can make it on him by being receptive to his advances, or by letting him know we wouldn't reject his advances. You can even be so bold as to say, you know what? If you asked me out for a drink on Friday, I wouldn't say no. That's still you being in the feminine and being playful. You're not taking charge. You're letting it sit like, I'm available. I'm interested. Come and get me if you want it, right? But then you're still letting him come and get it if he wants it. Okay, last question. I'm an avid traveler, a Sagittarius. Me too. Happy birthday, Mom. If I'm away a lot traveling, how do you develop a relationship? So Desiree, I have developed relationships when I lived in a separate country from my partner. I was living in Ecuador and he was living in California. And then I've developed a relationship when we were living in 2 different states. I was in Colorado, he was in New Mexico. I've developed a relationship when we were in 2 different towns. He was in Denver, I was in Colorado Springs. So it is absolutely possible. And the thing that is going to be really, really important is communication. Having absolutely stellar communication. And being really open and honest with yourself and potential partners that you're dating, what it is that you want, the amount of time you're able to dedicate to a relationship. Most likely your fit is going to be someone that's also a traveler that gets it, right? I mean, one of my clients right now, she and her partner, they live an hour away. They're both divorcees. They both have kids. And so they don't see each other a lot, but it's nice. Like, it's what works for them though. They have busy careers, busy lives, busy families, but it meshes well. Their same level of busyness messes well. And so Desiree, it could be that your perfect partner, also a traveler, also on the road a lot. You two can meet up in epic locations. You have to get really good at scheduling. Absolutely. But yeah, so as a Sag who's had plenty of relationships with men in different cities, states, and countries, I can tell you it is possible. Or another thing that could be is you're 2 people that like a lot of space. Maybe he's a homebody and doesn't mind that you're a traveler and he loves being at home. Maybe he's more of the feminine energy, like the homebody taking care of the nest, while you're more of the masculine energy when you're at work and doing your thing. So there's no wrong way to do it. There's a myriad ways to do relationship. But just really what it comes down to is what works for you. Like, what do you truly want? Maybe you've got an entrepreneur who works from home as a partner and he wants to travel with you. So he's like, oh, you're going to St. Louis this weekend for work? Great, I'll come with you. Oh, you're going to Montreal this weekend for work? Great, I'll come with you, right? So not hard to do, just you really getting clear on what it is that you want, laser focused, how you want to feel with your person. And then the communication piece is just going to be huge if you don't have as much time together as 2 people living in the same town that aren't traveling a lot. Yeah, yes, travel with me. I'm retired. Yeah, right? Why not? Other people out there love travel. All right, my loves, any last questions before we wrap it up tonight? Or tonight for me. I don't know where everybody else is, but it looks bright and sunny where Connie and Barb are. So I imagine you're probably in the US. Veronica, where are you? Are you in Europe?
Yes, Central Europe, Slovakia.
Oh, nice.
So it's almost 5 in the evening here. Got it.
Yeah, it's almost 8 here for me. Desiree's in Toronto. Love Toronto. Cool city. Okay, so there's a free training coming up on December 7th, the Irresistible Woman, which will be all about feminine energy, which is that receptivity, that magnetism, some of the common traits that men are looking for. So it's going to be a really nice, amazing deep dive. So if any of you want to join, I'm going to drop the link in there. I'm going to email about it, of course, this week as well. It's just emeraldsinclair.com/irresistible. Barb's gonna go boating. Ah, nice. Jealous. That's amazing. It's your birthday on the 7th. Mine's the 14th. Well, happy early birthday, Des. All right, my loves. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and I hope to see you at the Irresistible Woman training and in other locations on the internet, of course.
Thank you so much.
You are